Hello, people. Things have just been absolutely crazy around here. The way that God is interacting with us has changed. We've entered a new season and we've never known Him to be to us what He is being now. In the 30 years that we've known Him, He is acting quite differently with us, and many things have been happening, and we want to share those with you, and we'll do that in upcoming videos. But as I sat down to write about that, God gave me this message instead, and this needs to precede anything else. So, we have entered an unprecedented season. The people of God have never entered a season like this before. We have never passed this way before. God is about to raise up an end-time army, and the forerunners are being positioned at this time for emergence. These forerunners are coming out of their wilderness. They are sealed, and their redemption has been completed. They are entering their promised land. Now, this is uncharted territory, so Danny and I can't go to anyone and find the way forward. We have to rely heavily on the direction of the Holy Spirit. And then what we're trying to do is share on here, because what we experience may help someone else. So in Joshua chapter 3 it says, "And Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Acacia Grove and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they crossed over. So it was after 3 days that the officers went through the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before. And the Lord said to Joshua, This day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. And Joshua said to the people, Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you." Now, whilst at the same time some are being positioned to go in to take the promised land, the bulk of God's people are about to enter their wilderness. In Isaiah 43 it says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burnt, nor shall the flame scorch you, for I am the Lord your God. Do not consider the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it?" So there is a group that is entering their promised land, and there is a group that is about to enter their wilderness. Now, why is God blessing some with their inheritance, and yet others He is about to severely discipline? So back in 2013, God told me He was separating the sheep from among His goats. I've spoken about this in a previous video. He gave me a dream showing that He was separating the bride from the apostate church. That season has now finished, and we have moved into the season of exposure. The sheep and the goats are now going to be evident. Now, what was it about the sheep that God decided that they were His bride? And what was it about the goats that made them apostate? Well, it all came down to you in that season. What did you sow in that last season? Because whatever you sowed then during that season placed you in either of these two camps. Now, God is not a respecter of persons. In Galatians it says, do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man sows, that will he also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. That's important. Whoever sows of the Spirit will reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. So again, to what did you sow in the last season? Did you sow to the flesh or did you sow to the Spirit? We are about to find out. Now, this season is also unprecedented in the fact that it will be the first season in which people will not be able to manipulate themselves into a position of authority in the kingdom. God's glory is going to rest on the forerunners, not because God sits in heaven looking down on his people and saying, ooh, I like that person more, so I will grant that person my glory. But this person over here, maybe not so much. No, God's glory will rest upon these forerunners because they have been redeemed. They have passed through the waters and they have passed through the fire. And everyone will know that God is with them, and more importantly, why he is with them. There is going to be honor for them, and there will be shame for others when they see that they had chosen the lesser path in this last season. God has been pouring his grace upon his people in unparalleled amounts, and the church has treated it as their entitlement. They disdained its true purpose, which was a call to turn from its idols and return to full worship of the Father, to sacrifice all on the altar for him and allow the Holy Spirit to transform their hearts into the image of his Son. But so many have created or embraced deceptive doctrines that have discouraged the church from transformation. Well, this season is going to reveal the true sons and daughters of God. It will also be a season in which those who sowed to their flesh will be given a second chance. If they are willing to take their turn and to pass through the waters and to go through the fire, then they will come into their inheritance. But that will come down to them. It is an act of volition, of free will. God's not going to force anyone. You have to choose this. It's down to you. But if you choose not to, know that there's no comeback on God. He's offering you the choice. He's giving you the chance to compensate for your faults. After this, there may not be a recovery. There may not be any time left for third chances. It will be too late when we enter the time when what is going to go down in this world pretty soon. Then you'll be on your own. The Spirit will not turn up to save your butt when you have continually rejected him. If you have not sown of the Spirit, you cannot reap of the Spirit. That's a kingdom principle, and it's just. Why should anyone share in the inheritance who has squandered it so they could consume it upon their own lust? Now, there is also a lot of people that have been doing a lot of religious stuff that they have interpreted as sowing to the Spirit. But sowing to the Spirit simply means to allow the Holy Spirit to transform you into the image of Christ. To reject this is to reject the Holy Spirit, which is the unpardonable sin. When we get saved, we have one job to do, and that is to be transformed into the image of Christ. Everything else is secondary. And if you don't allow God to transform you into the image of his Son, then you have the image of the Antichrist. There is no third option. You're either like God's Son or you're like your father, the devil. As I said earlier, we have not passed this way before. We have begun transitioning into the millennial age. God is not going to allow rebellion to thrive during the time of his Son's reign on the earth. Every knee will bow to him. Every nation will come under his rule. God is going to deal with rebellion now. First among his people and then among the secular people. Rebellion will not come into the millennial age. God is going to lift the grace from the church that we have been receiving. What we would not do in a time of peace, we will now have to do in a time of testing. If we don't sort it out now, then the tribulation time will sort it out for us either way. If the people of God continue to reject the purifying work of the Holy Spirit, then they will be making choices that will affect the outcome of their eternal destination. There are many Christians who believe that so long as I am saved, I am safe. And they believe that nothing that they do can affect their eternal outcome. But when Jesus says, "Get away from me, I never knew you," where do you think they go? When Jesus tells the 5 foolish virgins that they do not get to enter the wedding and the door is shut on them, where do you think they go? When Jesus tells us that many of the sons of the kingdom will find themselves in outer darkness, where do you think they go? And when Jesus says he will vomit the lukewarm out of his mouth, where do you think they go? There is a different reward for those who sow to the Spirit from those who prefer to sow to their flesh. Now is the time of decision before this season passes and the door is shut and your eternal destiny is decided. I'll just finish with this from Joel chapter 3. Let the nations be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit in judgment. I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, go down, for the winepress is full, the vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision.